Being an action franchise centering around martial artists, the LEGO Ninjago canon is naturally going to have a giant treasure trove of weapons to choose from. From swords to shurikens to just straight up guns, there's a type of weapon for absolutely anybody and everybody in the world of Ninjago. And seeing as there's such a massive variety here, I thought that we'd rank some of my favorites. A long while ago I made a video very similar to this, but in that video I only ranked 5 weapons. And for a franchise with as much weapon variety as Ninjago, I really don't think that video did the topic justice. So let's give this another shot. This is going to be mostly centering around weapons that are more important to the plot and not just random stuff like Kai's grey sword from the pilots. Although, if a weapon is notable or cool enough to be put on this list, I'm just going to put it on anyways. This video isn't going to be one ranking the weapons on their power levels or anything like that. The rankings in today's video are going to be solely based on how much I like these weapons and how cool I think they are. Cool? Cool. So, without further ado, let's get into this list. Number 13. In at the number 13 spot, we have the Technoblades from Season 3 Rebooted. These weapons were given to the ninja by Cyrus Borg so that they can hack into the Digiverse and defeat the digital Overlord. These ones are really interesting in the sense that they don't work like traditional weapons per se, and as more of hacking devices. As far as just regular weapon utilities go, the Technoblades are pretty mediocre. But where these things really shine is that a simple touch from the blade of one of these weapons can hack into any piece of technology, giving the user of the Technoblade full access to its functions. I bet the ninja really wish they still had these things when they were fighting Imperium. As far as their designs go, the Technoblades are just so cool, man. A thing you're gonna notice probably pretty quickly in this video is that I am a huge sucker for weapons in fiction with glowing blades. Show me any kind of weapon like this in fiction and I am all over it. And the Technoblades are rocking glowing blades, so I have bias towards them. This is a pretty cool and unique set of weapons. Number 12. In at the number 12 spot on this list, we have the Empyrean Swords, used by the Claws of the Imperium in Dragon's Rising's first season. Now, straight off the bat, these swords get points for having glowy sci-fi blades. But what I think is really cool about these weapons is just how functional they are. These swords not only serve as regular traditional swords, but they also double as laser-based firearms and retractable ropes. If you're judging weapons based off of bang for your buck, I don't think you can get any more value out of a sword that can turn into a rope and a gun. I love just how functional these weapons are for their user. They really suit the Claws of the Imperium, which are a force that are not only dedicated to hunting dragons, but protecting Imperium. Just a really great weapon type here. Number 11. In at the number 11 spot on this list, we have the Sword of Souls, also known as the Djinn Blade, used by Nadakhan in Season 6 of Classic Ninjago Skybound. This is a weapon passed down generations upon generations of Djinn royalty, with the special function of trapping the souls of its victims within its blade. This thing is less of a traditional weapon and more of a containment device for your enemies, where you can just trap their soul in the blade for all of eternity rather than bothering with killing them. You also get the bonus of being able to use the life force and specific abilities of the people you trap in the blade. For example, if you trap an elemental master within the Sword of Souls, you can now use that elemental power at will. So in theory, this sword's power could just infinitely expand as more souls are trapped in it, which is a really cool idea. I do have issues with the way this weapon is written. In the season it's from, its ability to trap souls just by striking them with the blade is introduced incredibly last minute and contradicts everything we've seen from this weapon before it. So writing wise, yeah, it's not really the best weapon and I do have to detract points from it a bit, otherwise it would be way higher up on the list. But I think just for how cool this thing is conceptually and design-wise, I think it still deserves a spot on this list. Number 10. In at the number 10 spot on this list, we have the Blades of Deliverance from Season 13, Master of the Mountain. So, to get the most obvious thing out of the way first, these are some beautiful blade designs. These blades feel like if the classic yin-yang symbol was a set of swords, and I really love that about them. What I also really love about the Blades of Deliverance is their significance to the story of Master of the Mountain. I love how the two blades are these really culturally important artifacts to the Geckos and the Munts, because they symbolize their connection with the Earth Elemental Master Lily and how she saved them from Griefbringer. I really love that whole plotline about the Skull Sorcerer stealing the two blades and turning the races against each other. I also really love how the two blades are ultimately powerless in the end. The whole season we're led on to believe that these blades have some kind of special power that Lily used to defeat Griefbringer, but we're eventually told that these are just swords, no magic involved. For both Cole and Lily before him, the Blades of Deliverance are not the thing that makes them win their fights against Griefbringer or the Skull Sorcerer. The thing that allows the two Earth Elementals to win in the end is their own inner strength, determination, and power. Master of the Mountain is just such a great season, and the Blades of Deliverance are a shining example of why Season 13 storytelling is so great. Number 9. In at the number 9 spot on this list, we have the Departed Blades, also known as the Weapons of the Departed from Ninjago Day of the Departed. That is the most I've ever said departed in a single sentence. Anyways, these are some incredibly cool weapons. Taking bits and pieces of the absolute best of Ninjago's weapon lineup leading up to that point, and tying them all together with this beautiful ghostly hilt design. Fit for the spirits of the ninja's worst enemies raised from the dead. I love the green ghostly tint these weapons take on as the villain's spirits start interacting with them, and the actual abilities of these weapons themselves is really interesting to me. I imagine they're slightly stronger than your average weapon, but they don't really have any offensive abilities per se. The ability these weapons possess is that should one of the resurrected villains kill one of the ninja with these blades, the villain in question would take that ninja's place amongst the living, which I think is a really interesting ability for these weapons. So from having absolutely gorgeous designs to a really interesting utility in the plot, the Departed Blades absolutely deserve the 9th position on this list. Number 8. In at the number 8 spot on this list, we have the Forbidden Spinjitzu Naginata from Season 11, Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu. And these things are just cool as hell. These Naginata, which are also used as magic staffs by the likes of Asphira, are weapons that have had the ancient Scrolls of Forbidden Spinjitzu attached to them. Hyper powerful artifacts that grant people who use them access to Forbidden Spinjitzu. A fighting style that greatly amplifies their elemental powers and proficiency with Spinjitzu at the cost of eroding their sanity and moral code. Prolonged exposure to Forbidden Spinjitzu causes elemental masters to become angry and lash out at the world, causing them to make decisions that they would never have in a million years had they not come into contact with these scrolls. One of the most catastrophic examples we see of this happening in the Ninjago TV show is when one of these Naginata is inseparably attached to Zane for decades on end. This, combined with his amnesia upon arriving in the Netherrealm, caused him to become a tyrannical dictator who subjugates the Netherrealm and its citizens for years. Eventually though, Lloyd is able to jog Zane's memory enough to where he's able to fight back against the corrupting power of the scroll, bringing an end to the Ice Emperor's reign. These Naginata are incredibly cool, not only for their design, but their corrupting power on their users. I know we saw the actual Naginata on its own again being used in Crystallized, but I really wish we could have seen it with the Scroll of Forbidden Spinjitzu again, as they were such a cool combo. Number 7. In at the number 7 spot on this list, we have a pick fueled half by nostalgia, half by great art direction, the Error Blades introduced in Ninjago's 5th season, Possession. The blades of these giant throwing stars are made out of deep stone, a rare mineral found only deep underwater, with the unique ability to vanquish ghosts upon making contact with them. Over Ninjago's run, the ninja have been given multiple sets of weapons to collect. Some of which being swords, some of which being chained weapons. I think throwing stars are such an important part of the general aesthetic associated with ninjas, so the fact that we didn't have more weapons like this before then was super weird. But I'm really glad to have finally gotten some more of them in Ninjago with the addition of the Error Blades. I love the glowing blades on the end of them. I love how they're color-coded to each of the ninja. I just think this is a really cool set of weapons. One of my favorite things about the Error Blades is that because they were so heavily associated with Ronin and his shop in Season 5, the Error Blades are a thing that's just inherently tied to his character. And as a result, we see Error Blades make appearances in future seasons whenever Ronin shows up, such as in Season 6. It's a huge shame this trend stopped around Season 7 though, because it was a really nice bit of visual continuity. Still, it was nice while it lasted, and the Error Blades are just a really cool type of weapon, man. Number 6. In at the number 6 spot on this list, we have the Dragon Bone Blade, which first appeared in Ninjago Season 9 Hunted, but also made a reappearance in Crystallized in the episode Brave But Foolish. This is a blade crafted from a bone of the firstborn dragon, given to the first Spinjitzu master during his time in the First Realm. When the first Spinjitzu master left the First Realm to create Ninjago, he left his sword behind, where it would later be stolen by Iron Baron, before ultimately being reunited with the first Spinjitzu master's family when his son Master Wu obtained the sword. And this thing is really cool. Straight off the bat, it has a really great design. You can instantly tell by looking at this thing just from the colors and the materials that it is made out of bone. Plus, the Dragon Bone Blade introduced this Lego piece here, the Dragon Hilt piece. One of my favorite Lego pieces of all time. This thing is versatile as all hell, and has been used to create and redesign tons of awesome Ninjago weapons since its inception. For the contributions made to Ninjago's art direction, just from this bottom hilt piece alone, I love this thing. But the actual blade piece is so good looking as well. And also functionally, this weapon is really cool and unique. Ninjago has a bunch of weapons that's main purpose is to disadvantage elemental masters, usually by stopping them from using their powers completely innately in the vicinity of it or by stealing their elemental powers. This weapon is similar to that, but also super unique in the sense that it doesn't disable elemental powers, but instead acts like a magnet of sorts that absorbs and neutralizes elemental power, effectively rendering an elemental master's attempts to weaponize their power useless in the vicinity of it. I think this weapon's ability set is really cool, and a super unique way of going about counteracting elemental powers. Also, the blade's design is absolutely spectacular, and the pieces introduced by it on the LEGO set side of things have done wonders for Ninjago's art direction going forward. Number 5. In at the number 5 spot on this list, we have the Sword of Sanctuary from Ninjago's 5th season, Possession. And the Sword of Sanctuary, as far as Ninjago weapons go, is an iconic classic. Protected by the Writers of Destiny, this is a weapon that allows its user to see into the future, with their opponent's next move being reflected in the Sword of Sanctuary's blade. My only real complaint with this sword's presence in the show is that it never got featured in a season animated by WorldBrain, because you just know the animators would have cooked up the craziest fight scene you've ever seen using this sword. Amazing design, great utility. I'm nostalgia blind for it. The Sword of Sanctuary is absolutely spectacular. Number 4. Do you guys remember at the start of this video when I said that I was deeply biased for swords with glowing blades? Welp, that's completely relevant now, because my number 4 pick for this list is the Elemental Blades from Season 2. These things are gorgeous. Ability-wise, they're basically just a replacement for the golden weapons which were destroyed a few episodes prior. But what they lack in utility, they more than make up for in presentation. Found in the Temple of Light, the elemental blades are basically Ninjago's equivalent of lightsabers. Ancient artifacts forged so when the time of the final battle comes, the acolytes of the Green Ninja will have a way to channel the elements of creation into him. Function-wise, they definitely leave something to be desired, but they look so cool that I couldn't not put them this high up on the list. I love these things. Number 3. In at the number 3 spot on this list, we have the Time Blades from Ninjago Season 7, Hands of Time. Now look, Hands of Time is Hands of Time. Very little of what it sets out to do is stuff that it actually succeeds at doing, but I think the Time Blades are a giant exception to that rule. These things are so good. What I like about these things so much design-wise is that they aren't traditional swords. The Ninjago designers instead made the choice to make these bladed gauntlets. The Time Blades are a set of 4 bladed gauntlets forged by Kai and Nia's parents, Ray and Maya, out of a rare material called chronosteel, which were used to take away the elemental powers of the Masters of Time, Crocs and Acronics. Just one of these things is massively powerful, but all 4 of them combined could be absolutely catastrophic if put in the wrong hands. And I say that because these 4 blades have the ability to speed up the flow of time, slow down the flow of time, completely pause time, and reverse the flow of time. So yeah, these blades are pretty formidable, and for all Hands of Time gets wrong, I do think their powers are utilized well in that season. You got fight scenes where Acronics is using the fast forward blade to zip around and evade his opponents. You've got a scene where all of the characters get stuck in a slow motion time bubble. The stop blade is used to leave Kai and Nia to die at one point. And in my opinion, the coolest one, the reversal blade, is used to reverse the outcome of an entire fight at one point, which is so sick. Great designs, cool powers, really well utilized. The Time Blades are an absolute gem, especially given the messy season they come from. Number 2. In at the number 2 spot on this list, we have the ninja's current weapons, which were introduced in the 11th season of Classic Ninjago and have stuck around all the way up to Dragon's Rising Season 2. A lot of people call these the ninja's golden weapons, which is a fine name on paper, but when you do that, it's very easy to confuse them with the golden weapons. So when I talk about these things, I just like to call them the ninja's weapons. After the loss of the golden weapons of Spinjitzu in Season 2 of Ninjago, the franchise spent a while really struggling to nail down a set of weapons for the ninja. Sometimes it was just their classic silver weapons from the pilots, other times it was more or less their weapons from the LEGO Ninjago movie. But when WorldBrain Studios and Season 11 came around, the franchise finally settled on a consistent set of weapons for the ninja, and I love these. The ninja's current weapons are these beautiful, golden, ornate versions of the weapons lifted from the Ninjago movie. I love these things. They're so ridiculously personalized to each of the ninja. For example, the handle of Cole's hammer has these tiny little spikes on them, and all of these weapons have little colored accents on them to line up with the ninja's color. The designers took the already spectacular weapons from Sons of Garmadon, which in of themselves were just already improved versions of the spectacular weapon designs from the movie, and made them even better, giving these designs just so much more personality, and making them feel even more unified by using the, as mentioned before, absolutely amazing Season 9 Dragon Hilt piece. Fun little fact, by the way, when Dragon's Rising came around, Kai's katana specifically was redesigned for the new show. The main thing that was changed was the removal of the grey guard by the handle, and the 2 red guards beneath it were made smaller. I think these changes were absolutely for the better and just makes the sword look a bit more streamlined and thoughtfully designed. But what's interesting to me is only Kai's sword was changed. From what I can tell, all of the other ninjas' weapons were not redesigned at all going into the new show. It was just Kai's. I'm not complaining though, I much prefer the new design anyways. What I really like about these weapons above all else though is just how consistently they've been in the show. We are now on our 5th consecutive year of these being the ninjas' main weapons, and I love it, to be honest. In a franchise where so much is changing so frequently, it's nice to have these little bits of consistent familiarity. I love these weapons so much. Number 1. And then at the number 1 spot on this list, in a surprise to absolutely no one, we have the golden weapons of Spinjitzu. What even is there to say about these things, man? These things are absolutely legendary and as iconic as Ninjago itself. The 4 golden weapons used by the first Spinjitzu master to create the entire world of Ninjago. So powerful that no mortal can wield all 4 at once without instantly dying. Weapons that have went through being combined into a mega weapon, blasted off into space, melted and turned into armor, reforged once again and then turned evil, before ultimately becoming a giant dragon. These things have such an insanely storied history, fitting for the most iconic items in all of Ninjago's story. Every kid who even knew what Ninjago was thought these were the coolest things ever. And rightfully so with their drop-dead gorgeous dragon-themed designs. A great thing about the golden weapons is their use for play in the LEGO sets. Over the years, the Ninjago LEGO theme has had a ton of collectibles in the sets that the hero and the villain must work against each other to take possession of. And of all of the collectibles that they've released over the years, none of them have conveyed a sense of value and importance better than a golden set of weapons. Nothing will ever beat these. As a kid getting into Ninjago for the first time, there was no piece that felt more valuable than the golden sword of fire. That mold is just too cool and iconic. I'm convinced that nothing is ever going to beat that mold, and it will remain as the most iconic Ninjago weapon of all time. These weapons have an awesome ability set, having literally created worlds, incredible, iconic, instantly recognizable designs, and have cemented themselves as absolute icons in the eyes of people who grew up with Ninjago. These things are legendary, and the absolute best set of Ninjago weapons ever. And with that, that is my ranking of the top 13 Ninjago weapons. Remember that this list is just my opinion, and you don't need to agree with everything on here. Be sure to let me know your list in the comments if you agree with mine or how yours would differ. A massive thank you to the channel members, and a massive thank you to everyone for watching this video all the way through. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.